Internet. Welcome to the 138th episode spectacular of the Comic Watchers Show. I'm your host, Matt Meyer. With me this week is artist extraordinaire, Ray Anthony Height. Ray,
hello.
How are you, my good man?
Doing pretty good, Matt. How are you doing this week?
I'm good. I didn't get hit by a hurricane, and nor did I burn down my entire town, and it didn't flood, and nobody I know has COVID. So I mean, I'm off to a decent start. I mean, all things being equal, I'm out probably in a stupid good place compared to some people out there that are really.
I was saying, by pandemic rules, you're aces. Pandemic, hurricane, apocalypse.
Who's not to I mean, we'll just take it back to Ghostbusters a little bit and paraphrase that the dead are rising from the grave. So maybe it is the end times and we just didn't know about it. But we're here. We're talking Luke Cage City on Fire that starts in October, and you are drawing the second issue, written by Ho Chi Anderson. I want to get to that. But first, I want to dig into something really cool that I stumbled onto on your Tumblr. And I think I'm looking at it framed behind you, actually. And this really sweet story about how when you got your first work published, your mother framed the comic and framed the check and gave it to you. And I just want to know, how is your mom? Why is your mom the best mom ever?
Well, the good thing is it's the mom that I came into, because she's my wife's mom. So my mother-in-law is awesome. She's one of the best things that came into marrying my wife. So
that's awesome, dude.
Yeah,
that is awesome. I mean, cheap mother-in-law jokes aside, like, it really is.
Yeah, they don't apply.
I've got a pretty good one myself. I'm very fortunate in that regard.
I hit the lottery. I hit the mother-in-law lottery,
Absolutely, my dude. So, but yeah, you've been around in the biz for 13-ish years now, I think. And now you're getting a chance to draw Luke Cage, and you've been drawing Star Wars. And I mean, Luke Cage though, man.
I know.
How does that feel?
It's all a buzz. What's funny? I don't know what was the bigger buzz, the Star Wars buzz or the Luke Cage buzz.
Right?
Yeah. It's kind of funny because I'm trying to think, like, what's coming out in November is the Fantastic Four tribute. And I was a part of that. And it's like, some of Marvel's best dudes on there. And, it's very funny to me because there's so many talented people that are working on this, on that book. And I often say, how did I get here? So, it's, when I think about being in this business for 13 plus years, definitely at Marvel, and I've never officially drawn Luke Cage. Not one time. I've drawn Black Panther once, and that was in X-Men Wakanda Forever. Okay. And he was not in costume.
Oh, so just T'Challa.
Just T'Challa. And what else? I've never actually drawn Sam Wilson. I've never drawn. I did some sample pages with Sam in it, but I've never drawn him officially. Who else? I'm trying to think. It's a lot of Black characters I grew up with that I actually never got to draw. And they're on my list. They're on my bucket list. And admittedly, I'll put this out there. I know we're live and everything, but in the beginning, when I was reading comics in the old school era, the Buscema, Senat, Kirby, John Romita Sr., that era. And I got my first comics, and Luke Cage was one of the first comics I'd ever gotten. Power Man and Iron Fist. I didn't really care for him. I'll be honest, I didn't. It wasn't until Brian Michael Bendis's run where I was like, okay, I'm feeling it. I'm feeling this now.
Bendis took a character that I think a lot of people, it's like, yeah, we're affectionate for him, Power Man and Iron Fist, awesome stuff, but just hadn't found a niche or a voice in the modern vernacular for comics.
Yeah.
And Bendis, to his credit, took Luke Cage and saw his potential and brought it forth. And there's an issue, I want to say it's like New Avengers number 19, where Luke takes the Avengers to like a rough inner city neighborhood.
Oh, yeah.
And they're like just hanging out, being a presence. And Cap looks at, I think it's Iron Man or somebody, and he's like, this is why he's an Avenger.
Yep.
And that's such a core moment, because it speaks to Luke Cage on two different levels. He's the guy for the neighborhood, but he's capable of being the guy on the world stage with the Avengers.
And that is what I loved. Not to say that other stories hadn't touched on that in some way, but it was always kind of like soaked in this blaxploitation, and he did come of that era, but
sure.
But you know, we have been so far removed from that, and so many of the Marvel characters have grown up and with the times. They have evolved with the times, and Luke took longer. Let's call Luke a late bloomer. He took longer to evolve, and I liked where that direction was. I mean, even Heroes for Hire was getting there. You remember?
In the late 90s?
It was getting there, but it was kind of like...
we're still trying to figure out who this guy is.
Yes, exactly.
They tried to kind of, in the early 90s with the Cage ongoing, they tried to recast him in a more modern vernacular. And I mean, that could have gone so wrong in the early 90s.
Oh, yeah.
Like, we're so fortunate that they didn't try to turn him into a gangster rap version of Luke Cage written by white people.
Well, and you know, we remember we had Rage. Rage actually took Luke's place as the big black menacing black guy, you know?
Right.
And I was a huge fan, as you know, of New Warriors. Mm-hmm. So when Rage came on the scene and Elvin's whole backstory where he's this kid, and it kind of speaks to, you know, shout out to the creators who I love. They kind of saw that in that, even as a kid, you know, there was an intimidation, completely unfounded, about young black men, you know, as dangerous. Well, Rage went the other level.
Character Rage, like,
right? So, you know, and that whole story was quite a thing, but I always liked Night Thrasher as because the only difference, I mean, he took all of that, you know, the inner city stuff also, but he was basically Bruce Wayne.
Yeah, on a skateboard.
Right? It was all these things that totally broke stereotype.
Yes. Oh, absolutely. And then
even though Marvel had their thing with black guys on surfboards or skateboards, but Rocket Racer, I'm talking.
Leave Rocket Racer alone. Damn it.
Well, Midnight Sun had these discs, you know, from the Silver Surfer run, and he flew around on these discs on his hands and feet.
Yes,
it was a cosmic, you know, thing. So anyway, but yeah.
You know, Luke Cage, because he's so specifically tied to blaxploitation, I think it was a lot harder for writers to figure out how to translate that into a meaningful non-blaxploitation thing.
Right. You had to find out what that was.
Yeah, you had to figure out what it was. So yeah, there's a little trial, there's a little error. There's the Azarello and Corbin Cage miniseries.
That was good.
It is good, but it's also standalone. You know, it's not canon.
Yeah.
So, you know, you got to respect the fact that Luke Cage is a character that has really matured, and by the time his TV show hits Netflix, I mean, he's very woke, and very socially conscious, for which is what woke means, I guess. And it's a very topical show, and based on what I have read of for what Ho-Chi has in mind for City on Fire, it sounds like that is very much a direction that miniseries is taking.
Yeah, and it couldn't be in better hands, quite honestly.
Right.
Ho-Chi, he was part of the Milestone for a while, and he wrote that, the great Martin Luther King book, and it's just great hands. I'm excited about the whole project.
Sure. And I mean, there was, we're definitely tapping into the same vibe that the Netflix show tapped into very early on, with a black man in a hoodie who cannot be brought down by bullets.
Yep. Exactly.
And I don't have to tell you the importance of that image in and of itself. Do you feel a special responsibility to make sure that you carefully steward this character?
Absolutely. That's the reason why I was so concerned during the earlier eras. I mean, so like I started this out saying that, well, I wasn't a fan, right?
Right.
But clearly I read these runs because I kept wanting more. I kept wanting more. I wanted to see the character grow. So, and I think when I did going back to Brian Michael Bendis, I mean, when I saw that was good. But it was like, I don't remember, they needed somebody like Christopher Priest.
Yes.
To come along with that. But he was on Black Panther, so
yeah,
that was, and other things, and multitude of other things. The man's a genius, but yeah. So anyway, as far as being a good steward of the character, that's the thing where I'm going to go into it, depicting the Luke I want to see.
Okay.
And I'm just, I'm an artist, but it's a collaboration. So it's an interpretation of Ho-Chi's words and our group of artists, because, we have Sean Damian Hill. I forgot the other artist name that's on it, who's doing the first issue. I'm so sorry about that. But we're trying to be good stewards, and we're trying to put our best foot forward and really present this character, quite honestly, in the very best light. And best light, he's not this goody goody. He's supposed to be this real dude. Like, he is the bridge between the hood and the mainstream, right? So, and I think that's what this is going to bring. So
yeah. And Fareed Karami is the artist for issue number 1.
There we go.
Yeah. I had to look.
Thank you, Matt. Oh, look, I wanted to look so bad, but I was like, I gotta keep it moving.
Yeah, no worries at all, man. So, how did you get tapped for this project? I mean, you've been at Marvel for a cool minute, and how does this come about?
It's the work. We talk about in this business and any other business where you have to pay your dues.
Sure.
And I think that after 13 years or so, I've been there. I paid quite a few dues to get some bigger headlined characters. Although, I mean, X-Men was, pretty big. So here's the thing. Like, I was telling someone else that on X-Men Blue, when you get an X book, your stock rises a little bit, a little bit. And Spider-Man is one thing, but Spider-Man is that character is like introductory, right? There's so many Spider-Man books.
Sure.
So, I broke in with Spider-Man Family, as you can see behind me. But it wasn't a main Spidey book, and it makes a difference which book you're on, right?
Sure.
So,
yeah.
Right.
Like all the important Spider-Man stuff happens in Amazing.
Right. Like even the top 3, right? So you have Amazing, Spectacular. There was a time where there was Peter Parker. those were really, if you're on one of those 3 books, you're doing pretty good, right? You're in there. Anything outside of that, it's a little different. Like,
it's an assignment.
yeah,
it's an assignment, and that's cool. That's getting your name out there, getting your work out there, but at the same time, it's paying your bills.
It really
There's
is.
less prestige.
But to you, like for me, I love a lot of these characters. I also love DC characters too. But I love these characters. So when I get a chance to find somebody that I can work on, or when I get an assignment like Luke Cage, I know what it means to work on these characters.
Yeah,
and what it means to get an assignment like this. So it's almost like a character like Luke Cage is not like Spider-Man. Like Spider-Man he's bulletproof. Spider-Man is Teflon. So
yeah,
you know what I mean? Like you could do all kinds of Spider-Man stuff and he keeps ticking. He's a Timex, man. So, but Luke Cage is one of those characters that, you got to do a good job.
Absolutely.
And you got to do a good job, and it's got to be an authentic voice, and it's got to be, you have to come with it, man. Like you have to come with the story and the art, I mean, he's endured, but
you can't just slop out some half-assed Luke Cage.
No, and it's got to mean something.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Like, for one reason or another, David F. Walker's Luke Cage series ongoing didn't connect for whatever reason.
I was just going to mention that.
And I mean, hey, who are we gonna argue with David Walker? I mean, dude knows his shit.
He does. He's a good friend too. So.
Yeah. And but for whatever reason, that series didn't connect, and I think it's because he took the tack of taking a little bit too much of the street out of Cage, in my opinion. And I think that wasn't quite what people were ready for. It was a good series. It caught me by surprise because it wasn't what I was expecting, especially coming off of the Power Man and Iron Fist revival that he and Sanford Green had done.
Yes.
Which was very, very on brand.
So you're already on the same path I was going to get into, because that book with David and Sanford on it, it was
like I was
so
legitimately angry when they announced that book was ending.
Yep. which was supposed to transition into this new Luke book, right? So and I'll just say the things just didn't work the way they should have worked.
It happens.
Yeah.
And there's stuff behind the scenes. I'm not telling you anything you don't know.
Yeah. And it ain't my story to tell.
Hey, no worries. But these things do happen, and with Luke Cage, you've got to take special care to do the job and do the work right. Like we were starting to say, he's sort of akin in a sense to Daredevil. Because Miller set this bar, and it was a legendary bar, and you've never had a half dozen Daredevil books to bolster Daredevil every month. Like that book has to be good. It
That's
has
exactly
to hit a certain level. And I mean, for my money, ever since freaking Marvel Knights, Kevin Smith and Joe Q in 1998, 23 years ago, I will argue to my dying breath that Daredevil has had the most successful, sustained, critical, just awesome creative runs.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That's one thing. And I mean, Daredevil has a certain level of knowledge and cash and okay, yeah, here's Kingpin, here's Bullseye, here's Elektra, here's Matt Murdock screwing his life up again. We get that. But there's a social relevancy to Luke Cage.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
If you're making a Mount Rushmore of black superheroes, I mean, it's him, it's T'Challa, it's Aurora, and Jefferson Pierce.
Yeah.
That's it, right? Yeah. I mean, yes, of course there's other
black heroes. No, there needs to be one more. John Stewart.
You got to have John Stewart. You're right.
John Stewart.
I blanked on John.
Yep.
So five for our Mount Rushmore black superheroes. And so, but I mean, there's that matters,
But that's the thing about being black anywhere, and it sucks because if you're black, then when you go out to the world, you kind of carry all of black people with you, and that's not a burden we are looking to carry, but that's the one we've been given. Right. So, when we go out there, we're not looked at as individuals. We're looked at as representatives of an entire race. Right. And so when you do something with a character like Luke Cage or Jon Stewart, or even, Vixen for that matter, or
sure.
These are characters that have to represent a certain, level of, I don't know, character. And it's, and there's a diaspora. So one person or one character should not have to shoulder or all of these characters, all of the race, right? Because when you look at Cable is not a symbol for every mutant. You know what I mean? Cable is a symbol for Cable. And he's already got a lot of burdens on his shoulders. Right?
The burden of continuity, yes.
Yeah, burden of continuity and pads and pockets. So, and guns and unconceivable guns. So anyway, that's really it. I mean, unconceivable, inconceivable. But yeah, that's really it. And that's the problem. It's the same thing where, I don't know, when we can break that, then I think we can do more. But until then, there is a level of responsibility. Let's say Daredevil has a level of responsibility, though, because, like you said, the runs have been so amazing.
Right.
That character, for the most part, has really been blessed with some good runs.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's just that's the standard.
Yep. And there's never been, you're right. I'm trying to think, has there ever been any like side Daredevil books?
I mean, the occasional miniseries.
But it's usually
it's always just been the main Daredevil book.
Yeah, that's it.
There's never been the stupendous Daredevil and
the
terrific Daredevil.
It's always a one-off. Like they had Daredevil, then they had The Man Without Fear, which was its own.
Yeah.
Right. Which is brilliant. One of my favorites.
Absolutely. Peak Romita Jr. I'll add.
Yep.
I
fell in love. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah. Anyway, I hope that answers your question in my wibbly wobbly way as my buddy.
No, absolutely. We're just charging through this discourse. Like between the two of us, we're going to solve society's ills. And
one argument at a time.
One argument at a time. So so we've got Luke Cage, and on the other side of life, we've got Midnight Tiger.
We do, but I'll talk about Midnight Tiger if I could talk about Corner Man first.
Okay, I want to talk about Corner Man.
So yeah, because with Midnight Tiger, and I was basically trying to do the same thing to show another aspect of what being a black person is, and here's this kid in Midnight Tiger who does believe in superheroes, and he's optimistic, and it's not all this kind of like everything's terrible, it's all bad. He wasn't that kid. I mean, what he wants to do is be a symbol for people to look up to, much like Spider-Man, right? Like or Superman, even in the sense that I can't save everybody, but let me inspire you to be able to save yourself, to stand up. I'll help out, but there's basically, he wants to say that there's a superhero in all of us, and I'm the biggest fan, and maybe I can be your superhero Sherpa, through all of this, to kind of say, it's inside you to do good, because that's really what it is. It's to stand up and do the right thing, no matter how hard it is.
Absolutely.
Right? So that's what Gavin and Midnight Tiger represents. Whereas in Corner Man, Jason Drexler, he's I want to say the opposite, because he does good things in his own way. And right now there's a campaign going on at Zoop that we're still going on right now. We definitely need supporters on it. But Jason Drexler is the kind of guy who he has mastered so many different martial arts over the year, but he doesn't want to be a superhero. His superpower, and I'm not giving too much away, is basically teaching people to unlock the potential in themselves, like any good mentor or any good,
it's
any
more of a
good
soft
pastor.
power.
Exactly. But he wants to be, the government wants to use him for the most part because he's trained their superheroes. But then they go missing and he's not interested. He said, I don't want to go deal with these people. I taught them enough to get out of the problem, like just go ahead with it. And for him, he's like, okay, I'm done here. But they're like, no, here's a problem. Your sister is one of the superheroes that actually needs also saving. He did not know she was a superhero. After he trained her, he wanted her to go to grad school, which he thought that's what she was doing. But no, she's been moonlighting as a superhero. So Drex has to go and save her, or at least he thinks he has to go save her. And he enters into this new realm of superheroes, but he actually brings this supernatural martial arts world, his actual background, into this adventure. So that's basically what Quarterman is about. Here's this guy who trains everybody.
Really interesting.
Well, yeah, I mean it's really about the guy behind the guy. Like,
the Cornerman.
The Cornerman. I mean, because you got to think, to have the skill in order to train someone, you have to be pretty badass, right? You gotta because you're training people, at least on the outside, who's seemingly more powerful than you. Right. But here's that old adage: I taught you everything you know, but I didn't teach you everything I know.
Right.
So, but the government might know a little something.
Let's go back. So I want to make sure I put this out there very clearly. How can folks read Cornerman?
Well, right now we're doing a campaign on Zoop.
Zoop. Okay. I had not heard of Zoop, so shame on me.
Oh, no. Zoop is up and coming, and they're kind of like a great mixture between Kickstarter and Image Comics,
Interesting.
Oh, yeah. Okay. It's they're doing some fantastic stuff. They had a campaign with Bart Sears called Heads Will Roll.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Their biggest is Slow City Blues. I think it reached 44,000.
Okay. So they're kind of on the rise to challenge Kickstarter a little bit.
Well, a little bit, or maybe side by side. They're giving you more choices. Let's put it that way. No, because I think Kickstarter is great too. There are people who, Kickstarter, I would say, is fantastic if you have a following. You can cut out the middleman and you can go kind of right through directly to your fans. You have a fan base, and they're paying for your books, straight up. But
I think we're in the middle of a bit of an evolution on Kickstarter because you got guys that nobody's ever heard of for the longest time. Hey, help me get my book published. That's awesome. Communal. And now you're in a phase where here comes Scott Snyder. Nothing against Scott Snyder, but Scott Snyder is now the elephant in the room. And that's where all the eyeballs are going, is to guys like him. Now, that completely changes the dynamic. And I mean, we talked to Scott a little while back on the show, and he was like, hey, I mean, this is cool because it front loads the risk of expense.
It does.
Okay, I get it. And I think that's a smart business decision. However, it kind of screws over these little guys that are struggling to get seen now.
Yeah, but the other beauty about Kickstarter is there's a season, right? Because it's 30 days or 45 days. So imagine now check this out, Matt. Scott Snyder can be on Kickstarter for a month to 45 days. He front loads, this cavalcade of stuff, right?
Yeah.
And then they go about and they do it. You may not see Scott for a while, because they're working on the books and they're doing the thing. So then we're back to everyone else, right? We're all the way back. But imagine if Scott was doing this every month. Then I could see where you're coming from. But
that's fair. That's fair.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, it's definitely a shift in how Kickstarter is viewed.
This is very true.
So it's interesting. We're in a bit of a Wild West right now with Kickstarter and Zoop and even Indiegogo.
Yes, I was going to mention. Yeah.
And whoever else is out there. And it's really changing the way that we consume our comics.
Yes.
And at this point, the the old debate of paper versus digital is passe because we've learned that everybody gets to have their cake and eat it too. There's no reason to say either or, right?
Yes.
So it's just a matter now of pick and choose. Which do you like?
That's it.
You know,
you can have both. And let's say there's a campaign that's on Zoop that won't be on Kickstarter, but you have something that's on Kickstarter. You can have both.
Absolutely. And it's putting comics in more people's hands.
Yes, and directly to fans.
And
so the fans,
right.
And that's the biggest thing going on now, right? Fans want more of a bigger voice, per se.
Yeah.
And they want to be heard. So the best way for fans to be heard, and they'll love your content and they love you as a creator, is to go support everybody who instead of waiting for the next Marvel or DC or whatever comics, those comics are going to keep coming out.
Yeah,
they're going to be there. But these creators who are brave enough, because it takes bravery to do this, because you can work for Marvel and DC and you can be on a series and you know that check's coming, right? Like as a creator, and there's very little risk involved. As long as you hit your deadlines and your content's good, your work's great, they'll keep you on books and they'll keep you, doing stuff. When you have to put your own money and you're creating worlds and you're doing all these, it's a lot. It's a lot.
Not only that, but I mean, you're safely working at Marvel or DC. You're hitting your deadlines. You're getting your paychecks. Your name is out there. Your career's going good.
Yes,
that's awesome. But if you're this little guy and you're putting everything you have into your story, your vision, and it doesn't connect, or it flops, or just something, I mean, God, the devastation of that.
Yes.
Like it's
because you're invested. Like it's your heart.
Yeah, man, it's your heart. And I mean, my heart goes out entirely in support of these independent creators that you've never heard of that are just giving it their all and putting it out there.
That's why I'm so happy for the creators of Slow City Blues. Like $44,000 is a lot of money for what they're doing. That is fantastic. Like it basically costs anywhere between $8,500 and $10,000 to produce a single issue of a comic. So I mean, and you're paying all the staff decent rates. If you have a penciler, an inker, a colorist, letterer, even if your letterer isn't the same person who does your logo design, because sometimes it's two different people, and all of that, like your writer and all these other groups, you're paying anywhere between 4 to 6 or 7 people. And if you're paying them all, 20 pages to 24 pages, just tally that up. Tally that up to how much it's going to be. I would say the very low end, you can produce a book at, let's call it competitive rates, for about $5,000 an issue.
Yeah.
Because for me, when I do a Midnight Tiger book, I had asked for $3,500. And it was all digital, and I barely got that. Because most people were saying, well, can it be in print? Because they want their cake and eat it too. They want to be able to feel that book and look through those pages, and there's something about that.
There's a tactile experience for
readers, collectors,
holding a comic.
Yep,
holding a comic. The newsprint.
It's tactile. It's the experience.
Absolutely, it's part of it.
Yep,
so I get that, but you know what? We're 12, 13, 14 years into the digital revolution of comics, and now you've got a whole generation that is totally fine with just opening up their Comixology app.
Yeah,
and that's how they
Comixology.
Oh yeah,
Yep.
It's and again, it's great because you've got people. My dad has Comixology, right? And I mean, he's a voracious reader, but he's never going to walk into a comic book store, right?
You see there?
But I've been like, hey, you should read Lazarus because you like Greg Rucka. And he's, oh, yeah, okay, I'll check that out. And then he hits me up a few days later. Oh, my God, that was an awesome recommend. What else you got? Now I got you reading Ed Brubaker, and so on and so forth. And it just grows the audience and grows the
Matt, don't you know, like word of mouth is always the best, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
It's always the best. It doesn't matter how much you market or whatever. If people are talking about it, the fans will know. Like fans talk to other fans. Oh, you should be reading this, and here's a great recommendation. That's why things come up. It's hype is one thing, but I've seen overhyped books.
Oh yeah,
Not you know.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Like hype. It's a dirty word.
Yeah.
It really is. Give me substance any day of the week. You know, and maybe I do want a frothy little hype book sometimes. It's fine.
Yeah, exactly. Because some of that's candy, right? It's good stuff.
Absolutely. We like our candy, but we got to eat our vegetables too.
Exactly.
So, you, sir, speaking of eating vegetables, have had a little bit of a run and success doing some Star Warsy stuff.
I have, which I love.
I can't imagine you don't. What's that been like?
You know, it's been a venture into a galaxy far, far away. So, you know, I recently talked about this, and I mean recently by maybe a day or so ago, that when I like Star Wars, but my cousin's the biggest fan. My wife's actually a bigger fan, or at least in the beginning, of Star Wars than I was. But not only was I familiar, I watched most of the movies, not all of them. This is all before I got the gig, and you know, but when I got the gig, and I got the doors open to me, and the people that I worked with. Let me tell you how much the people that I worked with on that, and that's going down from, you know, Mike Seglain, who actually was the person who brought me in, or a Lucasfilm, and then Mark Paniccia, who was an old editor, my X-Men editor, and we, you know, have been friends for a while. You know, he's already running Star Wars over there. Tom Groneman, you know, those editors over there, they were great. And they kind of made me really a fan because I got to know so much. You know, the doors got open. I got to know so much about what was going on, like the ins and outs, and getting into the nitty gritty of the story. But it wasn't until Alyssa Wong's script I fell in love with Afra. Like,
Dr. It's Afra, hard not to.
Yeah.
There's a reason Dr. Afra's a breakout character, right?
Yeah, it really is. And I read the material beforehand, you know, all the stuff prior to Alyssa's run. But I don't know. Alyssa is one of those writers that, you know, I never saw myself, let's say, drawing a My Little Pony comic. But if Alyssa was writing it, I would draw.
Listen, man, those bronies are fierce. Okay, they will buy your comic. I promise.
You know, I thought that I was not that I was going to fail with the Star Wars stuff, but I just, you know, it became emotional attachment.
Sure.
Because first of all, the creative team was fantastic. You know, I had Victor Olazaba on inks. That was fantastic too. Who usually works with Humberto Ramos. So I've been following Victor's work for a long time. And that was one of the first times we got to work together. And I really, really enjoyed that. So I don't know. I got to do covers. Like, I'm still doing Star Wars covers to this day. So, but in between when I got my first gig, and then, so it's like I started that run and then I ended the run. The stuff in between I couldn't do because, you know, I was going through a family crisis where my dad had cancer and I had to take care of him. So I had to drop out.
I hate to hear that. I hope everything came out okay.
You know, he passed, but
I'm sorry.
You know, I appreciate that. But you know what? I'm one of those silver lining kind of people. And let me tell you, not only my creative team on Dr. Afra were amazing and just beautiful people who kind of helped me through that time period, but Marvel as a whole. You know, Ricky Purdon over there at Marvel, a talent coordinator, you know, CB Swolsky, everybody was really great.
That's cool.
During that
I love to hear that.
Yeah. So
you hear so many stories about they're the big corporate behemoth. And then I hear a story like that, and it's like, okay, cool. And maybe they're the big corporate behemoth.
They are
populated with good-hearted people.
Well, that's the thing, right? That's the thing. I'm not saying that some of the disdain that people have for the corporations aren't warranted. They definitely are. But there are still people who work there who have hearts just like you,
Yeah.
who feel just like you. And they talk you through it. And they want to be there. Sometimes, things will work out, because you have your creativity and commerce and things happen. And, but to know that there are people out there that actually give a shit,
Yeah. Oh yeah.
it was, I mean, genuine, because I could usually tell when somebody's just going through the motions. But nope. I mean, we still talk to this day. Like we go back and forth. So, and just kind of talk to each other as people.
Yeah.
Still. So anyway, I just wanted to say that inside the corporate monster is people. It's like real people in there.
That's excellent, man. I mean, it just knowing that you're getting to do work, doing what you love, drawing characters that you love, creating worlds that are your own, and getting to work with good people. I mean, done.
I'm lucky. I feel
Let
like
me do this the rest of my life.
Yeah. And it's not easy. It's still work.
Sure.
You lose sleep, you get stressed out and, irritable sometimes. And you miss spending time with your family to get stuff done. And but I don't think I would trade it. I used to dabble when things were getting really hard, or let's say jobs weren't coming in, or I get crappy jobs, or things weren't, there are people that are in this industry that aren't as nice as the people I've been fortunate enough to work with. But, those people, at least in my career so far, have been few and far between. But I'd still do it. I'd do it, and I know I'm not going to get paid. It's the stuff I think about in my sleep. I've dreamt about drawing in my sleep many a night, and working on different characters like Captain Marvel, both Carol and Marvel. Who's kind of a bucket list, Silver Surfer. I used to dream about drawing the New Warriors all the time when I was younger.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah. Like I had this dream where me and Mark Bagley were talking about New Warriors or something. It was crazy. Anyway,
that's so great. But Mark Bagley is probably one of my two favorite artists of all time.
That's cool.
If you're gonna have a dream talking about New Warriors with anybody, and it's got to be Mark.
Yeah.
So,
for sure.
So when you're diving in, and the pages just aren't working, and your process is backed up a little. I mean, how do you back out of things? How do you realign and say, this panel or this page isn't working? Where's my muse?
My wife.
My
wife is my muse. I if I'm getting frustrated or it's just burnt out or whatever, I take some time off. We go hang out, sit on the couch, watch Supernatural or
yes.
Yeah, something like right now I'm revisiting Grimm, and so here's this thing. I had this drawing I want to do where it's the Grimm cast versus the Supernatural cast. So I'm gonna draw that piece. Yeah. Well, so
I mean, I'm just saying.
No, I would say this. I would say because at the end of the battle, I'm pretty sure the Winchesters would win out. For sure. That whole side, the whole Supernatural, they have too many OP characters over there.
Yeah.
But I was, and I had this whole thing mapped out where I would say Nick Burkhart could beat regular Dean Winchester, but not First Blade Dean.
No. First Blade Dean was a bad man.
He was a bad man. And I mean, I know Nick with all the Grimm abilities, once he's at full Grimm abilities, he's a super badass, right? But when you are a demon with the first blade, I'm sorry.
No, it's game over, man.
Game
and
over.
I mean, just to balance that out a little bit, I mean, Dean himself said more than once that Sam is the best, smartest hunter he's ever encountered.
Right.
And that's over the course of an entire lifetime meeting and hunting. So, you know,
that's how I know Sam would kill Monroe.
It would be an interesting fight, though.
It would be very interesting. But then, and my wife and I kind of, you know, it wasn't a debate, but it was like, you know, I could see that Rosalie would probably kill Sam.
Oh, but he's a Winchester, so he'd come back.
Exactly. I love it. Yeah. But then it's Castiel, and I would say the higher version of Juliet, which was Eve, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So I haven't gotten to that part in my rewatch, but I know that she's there, and she had these abilities, and I thought, or even Adeline, you know, but you can't. Castiel's too powerful. He's just, even in his weakened state, he's pretty powerful.
Absolutely. I mean, and he's a big baby in a trench coat, but
still. Exactly. He's a big baby in a trench coat with a 9mm.
I can't tell you how many times my wife and I have gone back through Supernatural, man.
Same here.
Yeah. You know, you talk about you and your wife watching your shows together, and it's just great. And I'm just gonna nerd out about my marriage for a second here, but it's
you should. I do it all the time.
Have your shows together. You know, I'll always have my shows that are just like mine. I grew up with them. It's Buffy, it's Seinfeld, it's Sopranos, it's The Wire. You know, and you know, she's cool with them, but they're not ours. You know, right. And so when you've got that, and you know. God bless, my wife puts up with some crap sometimes, but we just had our 10th anniversary, and we're both looking at each other like, are you sure? Thank you. Are you sure you didn't lose your mind somewhere and you haven't realized it yet, right? No, I mean, I'm here because I want to be, because you're just like the best person ever. So I really love, and it just like gives me squishy feelings inside to hear.
I love hearing this.
Your muse, man. Yeah, because mine definitely is for me as well.
And
she's in the other room playing on now
without my wife, so I understand.
Right. Yeah. So. Well, now the daughter's joining in the awe course.
I got one of those too.
Hey, oh man. So what's next? I mean, you've got the one issue of Luke Cage. What's coming up, man? What's coming around the bend?
There's some irons in the fire.
That you can't talk about.
That I can't talk about. They haven't solidified yet.
Okay.
So, you know, some of them are closer to solid than others. But if things go well, I should be pretty booked through the middle of next year.
That's awesome.
But if they go well, they may not, you know, I mean, and I'm all for that. I'm all for flexibility and
clearly you have Marvel's trust. And of course, I'm assuming this is something with Marvel, but
I'd actually like to do more work at DC too. I don't have an exclusive at Marvel, but
right.
But they treat me very well. They treat me very well, you know, but there's quite a few DC characters I want to get my hands on at least once. You know, I never thought of working on Constantine before, but I did, you know?
Yeah.
So that was something that was interesting.
What a fun character to draw, though. Like,
yeah, I
I can just imagine, you know, you got all of the kind of gritty back alley man, you know, blue collar magician, and then just like the crazy crap that accompanies John Constantine everywhere he goes.
He's a cool character, you know. Danny Lore, who again, I've been lucky, Matt. I tell you, I have had the luckiest time with some of the best writers. New and old, you know, and it's just been fantastic to be able to work with all these people, every single one of them. You know, it's just wonderful, and they ask for me sometimes. You know what I mean? Like, you know who I am.
Quality of not just your work, but your character, man. I mean, we're not going to name any names, but I mean, we know there's those artists out there that people would give their eye teeth to get their art on the book. It's like, God, that person's a dick. I do not want to work with him. You know, not naming any names, but, you know, use your imagination. And I think that's probably why. And just having enjoyed this last almost hour of conversation with you so thoroughly,
I definitely
right? I
enjoyed
kept
it.
looking at the clock. I was
Yeah.
like, man, I'm gonna run out of things to say with this man because I don't have my backing posse with me. But here we are at 50 minutes.
Right. And it just blinked
I'm
by,
like, this
right?
dude is genuine. Like
Thank you.
he is clearly a down to earth dude who I probably just a joy to work with. So I mean, good on you, man. Your mother who framed that comic and paycheck must have done something, or well, mother-in-law, I guess, in that case. But
no, she did something right. She created her daughter, which I married, and then I got her.
there it is, man. There it is. So, all right, you said you've got some DC characters you want to write or draw. Excuse me, you want to draw. Well, let's go. Who are they?
Blue Beetle, Hawk Girl.
Which Blue Beetle? Hold on.
Both Jamie and Ted.
Okay.
It doesn't matter.
All right.
I fell in love with Ted. Well, Blue Devil. I was a huge fan of Blue Devil when it came out.
That's interesting to me. I love Z-list characters.
Me too.
Blue Devil,
always have
a wealth of untapped potential, right?
Yep.
Hell yeah.
Starman came back. I also want to do. Okay. So I pitched something to Jim Lee about Dark Stars.
Really?
So because I want to revive that with something new, a new character, but I won't even get into the details. Yeah. But that's something me and David Walker, I'd love to work on that with David Walker. But,
interesting. Okay. All right. Dark Stars, Blue Beetles. You started to say Hawk Girl, didn't you?
Yeah. Oh yeah, I did. Yeah, Hawk Girl. I want to work on Hawk Girl with Erica Schultz. So I see. You see, I've already picked part of the creative team, like who I want to collaborate with. So
what I like though is you didn't say anybody obvious.
Oh no, I mean I would be grateful to work on anyone in the Bat family, especially Batman himself. It would be fun. Sure. As a matter of fact, anybody who sees my work who either works for DC or just fan, they're like
instant street cred, man.
Yeah. They think I'd be great on something like Nightwing or Robin or something. I would love to work on those characters. I love those characters. So, but that's not. I wouldn't say they're in my bucket list, but they're definitely one of those like iconic characters that you could never say no to.
Sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So as we round out the hour, Ray, I thank you so much for taking time to, first of all, to reschedule.
Yeah, I know.
We were supposed to have been about 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
And man, life just kind of kicked me in the teeth and I just wasn't feeling well and it was just nasty. But thank you for being here and thank you for being just like a genuine human being, man. I know you're
I can't turn it off, Matt.
That means somebody did something right. And is continuing to do something right. So I know you're out in California now. Are you in Los Angeles or?
Well, I'm in Los Angeles County, but I
okay. So you're not near the fires right now, for now, or anything.
I live near too much water.
I feel you. I feel you. But man, I know a lot of people in California are going through it right now. We want to. I mean, not just California, but everywhere. We're gonna give a shout out to folks that are going through it and are gonna get through it.
Yes.
So
and I have friends in New York who just dealt with that hurricane, and it's just a tremendous just damage.
It's unprecedented. It's insane.
Yeah.
You insane. Every day, and they're like, "Here's a new record. Here's a new unprecedented horror."
It's apocalypse. Yeah. It's the apocalypse, man.
Nobody said the apocalypse would happen all at once.
No, it didn't. All we can do is survive it. That's
really write it out and be our best selves and try to do right by the people around us. And I mean, that's it, my man. Well, Ray, I think we've just about hit the end of our time. Thank you so much for yeah, absolutely. I mean, this has been a genuine pleasure, and I my biggest regret is we had to put it off for 2-3 weeks. However,
but it was worth the wait, right?
I think it was.
Yeah.
So, Luke Cage, City on Fire #1 comes out next month, October, from Marvel. Ray's issue #2 hits in November. He is drawing all kinds of awesome Star Wars-y type things as we speak, and you can back Corner Man on Zoop.
Please do.
Please do.
I want to make that happen.
We've had a million movies about Rocky.
Yes.
We've never had a movie about Mick. And
I like you, Matt.
That's the story I want next, and that's what Corner Man is.
All right.
And so, yeah, absolutely. So, Ray Anthony Height, thank you so much. Thank you for being a wonderful human being, a wonderful talent, and a credit to the comic book industry. Yes, sir. My hat is off to you and all of your accomplishments. Thank you, all of y'all, for listening. We will catch you next week on our new day, Wednesday, rather than Thursday, for, I don't know, some kind of crazy shenanigans. We'll see what we get up to. But until then, read something cool, support your local comic book store, and above all else, be good to each other. Thank you, and good night.
Good night.